Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a point in life where you must choose peace over reaction, calm over chaos, and strength over sensitivity. The moment you learn to act as if nothing bothers you, not because you don't feel, but because you've mastered how to respond, everything changes. The world loses its power to control your emotions. You stop living as a product of your circumstances and start living as the author of your reactions. That quiet control, that ability to remain calm when others would break, becomes your greatest strength. You see, life is full of noise, criticism, misunderstanding, disrespect, and distraction. Most people exhaust themselves trying to correct it, argue with it, or fight it. But power doesn't come from reacting. It comes from rising above it. When you remain unbothered, you don't deny reality, you simply refuse to let it define you. Every situation, every opinion, every obstacle becomes an opportunity to practice mastery of your inner world. And once you learn that, you start to realize peace is not given to you by others. It's something you create from within. Emotional control is not about pretending that nothing affects you. It's about mastering the way you respond when everything around you tries to shake you. It is one of the greatest forms of power a person can possess because it allows you to lead your life instead of being led by it. Most people react instantly to whatever life throws at them: anger, fear, criticism, or failure. They give their energy away to every situation that upsets them, unaware that every reaction drains their strength. But those who learn to stay calm in chaos understand something deeper. You cannot always control what happens around you, but you can always control what happens within you. That inner control is where real strength begins. When you remain calm in moments of tension, you keep your power. You stop allowing others to dictate your emotions and start directing your energy towards solutions instead of problems. People who can stay centered when others lose control become leaders, not because they dominate others, but because they master themselves. Emotional control is not weakness or suppression, it is wisdom in action. It means you recognize your feelings, understand them, but refuse to let them rule you. It is the ability to pause before reacting, to breathe before speaking, and to choose clarity over chaos. Life will always present moments that test your patience: disrespect, disappointment, failure, rejection, misunderstanding. In those moments, most people explode or withdraw. But when you learn emotional discipline, you rise above those patterns. You don't shrink when challenged, nor do you waste energy trying to prove yourself. Instead, you become observant. You start asking yourself, is this worth my peace? And more often than not, the answer is no. Every time you choose calm over chaos, you take back control. Every time you refuse to react to negativity, you strengthen your emotional muscles. Acting unbothered doesn't mean you're numb. It means you've matured. You've learned that reacting to everything doesn't make you stronger. It makes you exhausted. Real power is quiet. It doesn't need to shout or prove itself. It simply exists steady and self-assured. The person who can walk away without anger, respond without ego, and stand firm without shouting is the one who has mastered the art of control. This level of emotional strength brings peace, clarity, and confidence because you no longer depend on circumstances to determine your mood. You learn to find balance even when things around you are falling apart. Emotional control is not built overnight. It's developed through self-awareness and patience. It grows each time you choose to respond differently, each time you resist the urge to argue, and each time you remind yourself that not everything deserves your attention. Over time, you realize that calmness is not passivity, it's strategy. It gives you space to think, to act intelligently, and to see what others cannot see in the heat of the moment. The calm mind is the most powerful weapon in any situation because it sees clearly while others are blinded by emotion. When you act unbothered, you reclaim ownership of your emotions. You refuse to be a puppet controlled by other people's behavior or the world's unpredictability. You stop letting small things create big reactions. You begin to move through life with quiet confidence, understanding that emotional control doesn't make you cold. It makes you powerful. It gives you freedom from overthinking, from anger, and from the chaos that consumes those who cannot control their feelings. It allows you to rise above the noise and live from a place of peace rather than pressure. This is what true power looks like, not in domination, not in loudness, but in calm control. The ability to stay calm in chaos is not just emotional maturity. It is mastery of self. Detachment is one of the most misunderstood qualities in life. Many people confuse it with indifference or coldness, but in truth, detachment is a sign of deep emotional intelligence. It is not about shutting off your heart or refusing to care. It is about learning where to place your energy so it serves your peace instead of destroying it. Acting unbothered doesn't mean you've stopped feeling. It means you've stopped allowing every feeling, every situation, and every person to have control over your inner world. Detachment is not about apathy, it's about awareness. It's the ability to love, to care, and to give, but to do so from a place of balance, not attachment or desperation. When you practice detachment, you are not abandoning your emotions, you are managing them. You start to recognize that not every battle is worth fighting, not every word deserves an answer, and not every situation requires your involvement. It is the art of choosing your peace over your pride. There is strength in being able to say, I can care, but I won't carry. You stop giving energy to things that do not grow you, and you begin to protect your focus from what drains it. Detachment is the invisible boundary between peace and chaos. It's what keeps you grounded when the world tries to pull you in every direction. When you live attached to outcomes, people, or opinions, you suffer. You constantly seek validation, and your happiness becomes fragile because it depends on things you cannot control. But when you learn to detach, you set yourself free. You can still love deeply, but without losing yourself in the process. You can still be kind without being consumed. You can still be present without being dependent. Detachment allows you to experience life fully, but with the wisdom to know when to step back. It teaches you to appreciate moments and people for what they are, without needing them to be something else. It's the realization that your peace is your responsibility, and you will not trade it for temporary satisfaction. True maturity is when you stop reacting to everything that happens and start responding with understanding. You realize that most things that try to provoke you don't deserve your reaction, they deserve your silence. Detachment gives you that power. It allows you to pause before responding, to think before acting, and to choose calm over chaos. You begin to see that emotional control doesn't mean you are suppressing how you feel. It means you are directing your emotions toward growth, not destruction. People who misunderstand your calm will call you distant, but those who understand your peace will call you wise. When you detach, you start to understand that your value doesn't decrease because someone fails to recognize it, and your worth isn't determined by who stays or leaves. You stop chasing closure, explanations, and approval. You begin to trust life, to trust timing, and to trust yourself. You don't need to control every outcome because you've learned that what's meant for you will come, and what isn't will pass. No force, no fear, just faith. Detachment is not about caring less. It's about caring right. It's about aligning your emotions with peace rather than chaos. This kind of strength doesn't come overnight. It grows with experience and reflection. You get to a point where peace becomes more important than proving a point. You begin to walk away from drama, not because you're weak, but because you've learned that energy is sacred. You start valuing silence over explanation and calmness over control. You realize that reacting to every situation doesn't make you more powerful. It makes you exhausted. Detachment is the art of keeping your heart open while keeping your boundaries strong. You still care, but you care wisely. You still love, but you love peacefully. That's what it means to act unbothered, not to be heartless, but to be whole. Silence is one of the most powerful forms of communication, yet it is often the most underestimated. In a world that glorifies constant expression, defending yourself, and explaining your every move, silence becomes a rare form of strength. It takes wisdom to know when to speak, but it takes true power to know when not to. When you choose silence instead of reacting or defending yourself, you immediately confuse those who expect to control your emotions. They want to provoke a response, to draw you into chaos, to make you justify who you are. But when you remain calm and composed, their power over you disappears. Silence disarms noise because it cannot be argued with. It carries a presence that words often lack. It is in silence that your confidence, self-respect, and understanding of your worth become undeniable. You do not need to explain yourself to everyone because not everyone is ready or willing to understand you. Some people listen not to understand but to respond, and some misunderstand you deliberately because your peace threatens their instability. When you recognize that, you stop wasting your energy trying to convince them. You stop handing over your power through endless explanations and arguments that lead nowhere. The moment you realize that peace is more valuable than being right, you begin to live differently. Silence becomes your shield, not out of pride, but out of wisdom. It teaches you that validation is not something you demand from others, it's something you build within yourself. When you stay silent in the face of chaos, it does not mean you are weak or indifferent. It means you are choosing mastery over impulse. You are telling the world that your peace is not negotiable. You understand that responding to every provocation is a trap that pulls you into someone else's emotional storm. By remaining calm, you stay centered in your own energy. You see things clearly while others lose themselves in the noise. In silence, you gain perspective, and in that perspective, you find power. The loudest voices are often the most insecure. They speak out of fear, anger, or a desperate need to be heard. But the calm ones, they speak only when it adds value. Their restraint speaks volumes because it shows they are in control of themselves. Growth doesn't need to announce itself. It shows up through actions, through discipline, through consistency. When you let your progress be your voice, you don't need to defend yourself. Your results will do that for you. The calm person doesn't need to shout to be heard. They stand firm, knowing that truth eventually reveals itself without explanation. Every time you respond with silence instead of defense, you are preserving your energy for what truly matters: your goals, your peace, and your growth. You learn to stop pouring your effort into people who thrive on reaction. Instead, you redirect that energy into yourself, where it produces something real. Silence also protects your dignity. In moments of conflict, when emotions run high, words spoken in haste often lead to regret. But silence gives you space to think, to breathe, to decide what's worth responding to and what's worth ignoring. That restraint builds emotional intelligence and inner strength. You begin to understand that silence is not the absence of communication, it's a higher form of it. It says, I will not lower my peace to match your chaos. It says, my time and energy are too valuable to waste on misunderstanding. In a society addicted to reaction, silence is rebellion. It is a declaration of self-control and awareness. People may call it arrogance or indifference, but silence doesn't need approval. It stands on its own because it comes from a place of deep understanding. The calmest person in the room holds the most power, not because they dominate others, but because they master themselves. The moment you stop explaining yourself to those who choose not to understand you, you create space for real growth. You free yourself from the need to prove, to perform, or to please. In that freedom, you find peace, the kind that speaks louder than any defense ever could. Peace is not something you stumble upon by accident. It is something you deliberately build and fiercely protect. It is your foundation, your strength, and your clarity in a world that constantly tries to pull you in 1,000 directions. Your peace is your power source. Without it, you lose your focus, your energy, and your sense of direction. Every argument, every unnecessary confrontation, every toxic interaction withdraws from that inner balance, leaving you drained and distracted. The truth is, nothing is more expensive than a disturbed mind. When you lose your peace, you lose your ability to think clearly, to act wisely, and to move forward with purpose. That is why protecting your peace is not a luxury, it is a necessity. Every day, Life gives you opportunities to trade your peace for chaos. Someone says something that provokes you. A situation unfolds that tests your patience. A person gossips, criticizes, or spreads negativity. In those moments, your choice determines your power. You can engage, argue, and let it consume you, or you can rise above it. Protecting your peace means learning to recognize what deserves your attention and what doesn't. It means choosing silence when the noise is meaningless and walking away when the cost of staying is your peace of mind. Not every battle is worth fighting, and not every comment deserves a response. Peace is preserved through selective engagement, by learning to value your calm more than the need to prove a point. When you protect your peace, you start to understand the importance of boundaries. You realize that not everyone deserves access to your time, energy, or emotions. Some people bring light into your life, while others bring only confusion and exhaustion. Protecting your peace means having the strength to distance yourself from those who constantly bring negativity. It's not about being rude or dismissive. It's about being self-aware enough to know that you cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot grow in an environment that drains you. Protecting your peace is not selfish, it's survival. It's saying, I choose my mental and emotional well-being over unnecessary drama. Peace also sharpens your intuition. When your mind is quiet, you can hear your inner voice more clearly. You can distinguish between what feels right and what feels wrong, between what deserves your effort and what doesn't. But when your peace is disturbed, that voice becomes faint under the weight of confusion and stress. The less you allow external noise to invade your calm, the more connected you become to your true self. You start making decisions with clarity and confidence instead of fear or frustration. Protecting your peace gives you the space to think, to reflect, and to realign with your purpose. There will always be people who thrive on chaos, people who find comfort in conflict and satisfaction in spreading negativity. You cannot change them, but you can control how much of your peace they get to touch. The most powerful act of strength sometimes is walking away. Not in anger, not in bitterness, but in quiet understanding that your peace matters more than winning an argument or proving your worth. When you start prioritizing your peace, you'll notice that life feels lighter. The noise around you doesn't disappear, but it loses its power to control you. Protecting your peace means choosing peace even when chaos is an option. It means deciding that you will not allow the world to disturb the calm you've worked so hard to build. Every time you walk away from something that costs you peace, you reinforce your strength. You become more focused, more centered, and more in tune with your purpose. Peace is the foundation of power, the quiet space from which all clarity and creativity are born. When you guard it fiercely, you not only protect your mind, you protect your future. Focusing on growth instead of proving yourself is one of the most liberating and empowering shifts you can make in life. The constant desire to prove your worth, to gain approval, and to be understood drains your energy and distracts you from what truly matters. When you act unbothered, you are not pretending to be indifferent. You are choosing to redirect your energy towards self-improvement rather than validation. You begin to realize that your growth, not your explanations, is what defines your value. Trying to convince others of your worth keeps you trapped in a cycle of external dependency. But when you focus on becoming better for yourself, not for anyone's approval, you begin to transform quietly and powerfully. Growth does not require an audience, it requires consistency. Every moment you stay calm instead of reacting, every time you choose silence over defense, you are reminding the world that your focus is sacred. You are teaching yourself that your peace and progress are more important than being right in every conversation or being liked by everyone you meet. When you focus on growth, you stop competing with others and start competing with the person you were yesterday. You begin to take pride in progress that no one sees, the quiet improvements, the small victories, and the inner changes that lay the foundation for your success. When your goal is to prove, your attention becomes divided. You spend more time watching how others perceive you than working on who you are becoming. You start measuring your worth by external opinions instead of internal evolution. But growth requires your full attention. It demands patience, humility, and silence. It doesn't need to be broadcasted or validated because true development happens in solitude. Like a seed growing underground, your progress is invisible to most people until the results become impossible to ignore. The more you focus inward, the stronger your roots become. Those roots, your habits, your discipline, your mindset, are what sustain you long after external praise fades. When you stop trying to prove yourself, you free yourself from the exhausting need to be understood by everyone. Not everyone will see your effort. Not everyone will recognize your value. And that's okay. You begin to understand that the people meant to see your light will see it naturally, without you forcing it. The people meant to misunderstand you will do so no matter how much you explain. Growth means no longer seeking validation where it's not given freely. It means finding peace in being misunderstood and confidence in knowing that your work will eventually speak for you. Focusing on growth teaches patience. Improvement takes time, and real progress often happens in silence. You might not see instant results, but every disciplined act, every moment of self-control, and every quiet hour spent working adds up. Growth is steady, not loud. It's built through repetition, through the decisions you make when no one is watching, and through the resilience you show when no one is applauding. Acting unbothered doesn't mean you're detached from your dreams. It means you're too focused on building them to waste time proving them. You learn that success doesn't need to be declared. It needs to be demonstrated. When you focus on improving, life begins to feel lighter. The opinions that once consumed you no longer matter because you've shifted your attention to what you can control, your actions, your mindset, and your discipline. You begin to move with quiet confidence, knowing that you don't need to prove anything to anyone. Every day you show up, you're building something bigger than validation. You're building yourself. The results will come, and when they do, they'll speak in a way that no words ever could. Growth may be quiet, but it is powerful, and when your focus is no longer divided by negativity, everything you touch begins to rise with you. Stillness is not weakness or passivity. It is the deepest form of inner strength a person can develop. In a world that glorifies constant activity, noise, and reaction, the ability to remain calm in chaos is rare and powerful. Stillness doesn't mean doing nothing. It means being so grounded, so centered in your purpose and peace, that no external force can shake you. When you master stillness, you master yourself. You stop being driven by fear, anxiety, or frustration and begin to respond to life with clarity and purpose. The more still your mind becomes, the more powerful your actions become. Because true power is never frantic, it is focused. When nothing can shake you, everything starts to align because you are no longer fighting against the flow of life. You start to move with intention rather than reaction. The storms that once threw you off course become the winds that push you forward because you've learned how to navigate them. Stillness allows you to see what chaos hides, perspective. You start to recognize that most problems aren't as big as they seem. They only feel overwhelming when your mind is restless. But when you are still, you can separate what's real from what's temporary, what's important from what's noise. This calm awareness gives you control, not over everything around you, but over everything within you. And once you control your inner world, the outer world loses its ability to dominate you. Stillness doesn't come from escaping challenges, but from facing them without fear. Life will always test you with uncertainty, loss, and difficulty. You cannot avoid storms, but you can choose how to stand in them. The person who can stay calm in the middle of turbulence is the one who can lead through it. Leadership, whether in life or within yourself, is not about force, it's about steadiness. It's the calm tone when others panic, the thoughtful pause when others react, the quiet confidence that inspires trust. When you cultivate stillness, you create a space inside you that cannot be touched by outside chaos. No matter what happens, you return to that space. your center, and from there, you find strength to move forward. Stillness is power because it gives you the ability to respond, not react. Reactions are impulsive, emotional, and often destructive. Responses are deliberate, wise, and effective. The space between the two is stillness. It is the pause that allows you to breathe, to think, and to act from intention instead of fear. Most people rush to fix things, to argue, or to prove themselves. But stillness teaches patience, the understanding that not everything needs to be handled immediately, and not everything deserves your attention. When you stop letting the world pull you into constant reaction, you begin to live from strength rather than survival. When you act as if nothing bothers you, you're not pretending, you're practicing control, you're showing the world that your peace is not for sale. It doesn't mean you don't feel the storm, it means you've learned how to stand in it without losing yourself. That calmness becomes your power, a silent force that makes you untouchable. People will notice your composure and mistake it for indifference, but it's not indifference, it's mastery. You have learned that life doesn't need to be perfect to be peaceful. The world stops controlling you when you no longer give it the power to disturb your peace. You stop chasing outcomes, approval, or control over things beyond your reach. Instead, you focus inward where true strength lies, the ability to remain calm in chaos, to hold still in movement, and to stay unshaken in uncertainty is what transforms you from being reactive to being resilient. Stillness doesn't mean life stops testing you. It means you stop breaking every time it does. It means you carry peace wherever you go because you've learned that peace is not found in the absence of storms, but in the calmness of your own soul. Ladies and gentlemen, the day you learn to act as if nothing bothers you is the day you reclaim your freedom. You stop chasing validation, stop explaining your peace, and stop allowing chaos to dictate your emotions. You become the calm in the storm, grounded, focused, and unstoppable. The world doesn't need to see you react. It needs to witness your resilience, because when you master peace, everything changes.